everyone. It's been so great getting these first 11 episodes of First Builders launched and published. Before we dive into today's episode with Lisa Popovici, co-founder of Siena, we wanted to share a quick announcement that we're moving to a bi-weekly cadence. We're still going to be releasing on Mondays and across all of your streaming platforms. With that, I'll let you dive into the episode. Enjoy. Welcome to First Builders, the podcast for those who shape companies from the ground up. I'm Amber Illig, founder and general partner of the Council Capital, where we invest in early teams solving critical problems in essential industries.
And I'm Rachel Choi, partner at the Council. This podcast is about a group of people who are more likely than average to land executive roles or found unicorn companies. We explore moves that propelled them to where they are today and what early stage founders can learn to accelerate their own growth. We call them First Builders.
Whether founders or early team members, First Builders have created functions, teams, and processes from scratch, tackling the toughest phases of growth. And they don't just work at great companies, they join in the formative years and help define them.
And today's guest is a masterclass in that kind of gritty strategic building. We're thrilled to welcome Lisa Popovici, co-founder of Siena AI, a conversational AI platform. Lisa is a serial entrepreneur through and through. Before launching Siena, Lisa scaled multiple e-commerce brands and felt firsthand the pain of trying to deliver great customer experience while protecting margins and sanity.
And that frustration was the spark. So today, Siena has raised over $10 million and is backed by top investors like Aglaé Ventures, Partech, Aglaé Ventures, which is the venture arm of LVMH, and the Council, our own firm. They've built an empathetic AI agent that goes beyond scripted replies. It actually understands how a customer is feeling, not just what they're saying.
And this is especially near and dear to my heart as someone who spent most of my career in consulting, client services, and customer success. Lisa's story really resonates because she built Siena not just as a technologist from the outside, but as someone who lived the problem day in and day out.
Lisa, welcome to First Builders.
It's great to be here.
Awesome to have you. So before we get into what's happening at Siena today, I'd love to dive deeper into your entrepreneurial journey. When did you have the first inclination that you could be a founder and build something on your own?
Well, I think there's been a few moments, but if I go like a little bit like way back, I think it was when I was in elementary school, I actually signed up for Avon's kid reseller program. So I'm not sure if you
Nice.
know, like Avon, the
Yeah.
beauty company that literally you had to order through catalog. So I remember walking, on the hallway and just showing the catalog with beauty products to my friends, to the professors, to our teachers. And I think that gave me like initiated some sort of spark of entrepreneurship. So that was a really fun time. And I remember even going to their workshops with my best friend and just learning how to better sell our products. So I think that was one of the moments.
That's awesome. I didn't know that about you. I feel like that sort of like shamelessness and willing to do sales is so key to being a founder.
Yeah, I recently remembered this one.
That's awesome.
No, that's so amazing. And, we've heard that you've talked about, growing up in Romania and starting your career in medicine. How did those early experiences, along with like the Avon, selling, shape the kind of founder that you are today?
Yeah. So I think med school really hardwired my discipline and maybe also empathy. Also, I would say resilience. So the exam periods, I think we had two big ones per year. They were very long, like I think even sometimes 2 or 3 months at a time, if the actual exams were spread out. So we felt like you were constantly in like an exam period, and it was challenging. And I remember starting to have that routine. Like I was a morning person. I feel like my brain just works better in the morning. So I was waking up around 5. I was doing like the first block of studying. I was doing my coffee. I was studying, and then I did like a break to go to the gym, come back, eat, study, sleep, repeat. So I feel like that routine really helped me a lot. And I must admit, I was quite nerdy. So maybe I hope it helped my brain in some way, like just developing my memory and just, understanding better how to put, just like I would say bridge things together and that thought process of thinking through harder problems. So I think, I would say resilience, discipline, routine, empathy, and also resourcefulness. Especially, I was born in Romania, so that's where I studied med school. One of the things that I disliked during university was the fact that it was too much theory and less practice. So I was supposed to have that resourcefulness to go and find maybe other workshops or interesting courses that would have that practice element, or just research on my own, like YouTube, and just finding other folks that could teach me what I was missing in classes.
Yeah, and this is wild. So you started off in medicine and then you ended up building an AI startup, but in between you also founded several companies, as I remember. So how did you even get from medicine to D2C companies and then eventually to Siena?
Yeah. So during med school, I think I was in my second year. So I studied 6 years. I graduated, but I didn't follow with my residency. I met my co-founder Andre. I think I was in the second year of studying, and he actually introduced me to the world of e-commerce and Shopify. I was always like very geeky about like computers and internet and all this kind of stuff, but I didn't necessarily know about Shopify, or, didn't really get into e-commerce. So Andre introduced me to that, and I just became fascinated. And I remember he was the first one that was building, as we met, he was building his Shopify brand, and I just got so interested and passionate and curious about it. And I offered like, hey, can I just can I be your assistant for free? I just want to learn. It's so fascinating. And that's how I got to work with him. And then I started building my own, just because, of course, studying med school was not enough. So that's how I got into it, just through curiosity. And then I feel like we never necessarily like, we want to build an AI company. So we didn't necessarily know that, but I feel like it was a straight line for us. Everything progressed naturally because so when we were running our brands in parallel, we were doing customer service. We were, in the tickets, in the trenches. We were talking to customers, and then we hired folks to take care of the tickets. And then we built teams, and then we used a bunch of software and CRM. So we pretty much have been through all of that journey that our customers today are going through. So I think that gave us such a deep understanding of the customer today. And that's why I feel like Sienna really stands out in the market. So yeah, it was a natural progression through curiosity. And of course, I feel like every business that we worked on led us to where we are today, because from every single one, I think like we took some of the learnings and a lot of feedback and research.
Yeah, definitely. And I can hear what you were saying earlier about how you really like to connect ideas, even when you were in medicine, and how you're continuing to connect ideas all along your building journey into Sienna today. So you started building Sienna actually before like that big AI boom in 2023. What signal were you following, before the rest of us caught on?
Yeah. So I think with Sienna, there were a lot of like aha moments. There's even like every week we have, like something blows our mind. But like before, we started before ChatGPT came out. So our previous company was a conversational SMS marketing app for Shopify brands. And we were only doing SMS as a channel. And the funny thing is that it was fully human power. So it was like very little automation. We had actual real humans, on the other side of the text, chatting with the customers and helping them throughout their shopping journey and helping them to recover their abandoned carts and so on. So our customers at the time, they really loved how, this human approach and the results. And they were asking us, can you replicate that across other channels? Because we're traveling in tickets. 70% of our tickets are literally saying the same thing. And we are just so overwhelmed, and we are not really happy with the chatbots or the automation solutions that were out there at the time. For a period of time, we were like, no, we need to stay focused. Staying focused is key, and we're just going to do SMS. But then like we started hearing that more and more. And then we knew that the future was going to be AI. It was quite impossible for us to scale with only being human powered and human led. So we started like looking into the customer service market. So going beyond just SMS. And we really found out that there were so many gaps and inefficiencies, even like when you looked at the call centers of the world or customer service, like business operations of the world, they were really struggling with retaining those people, with their productivity, with their happiness. So we even found out like studies that were saying like, I don't recall exactly the percentage, but it was very high percentage of people being depressed because of their jobs. Like literally picking up the phone and talking to frustrated customers every single day is quite depressing, and like it really affects, your day to day. So it was just one of the things that attracted us. And obviously the tools at the time were not cutting it. So, with rule-based automation, super limited in terms of what we were able to do. So it was very hard to scale the human element with the tools that were available at the time. So we just started diving and obsessing about it. And we looked into the models that were available at the time. But of course, ChatGPT was not out there. So we actually decided, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to tackle all channels, going to go beyond SMS. We're going to really work backwards from how the human agent experience looks today, working backwards and try to replicate that with AI. So we actually started building our models in-house. But then once ChatGPT came out, I think this is one of the most important traits of a company or of a startup, to not be afraid to change course overnight and just constantly innovate. Or, if you need to literally scratch everything, you should be able to do so. But of course, I feel like the foundation that we've built really helped us. And then once ChatGPT came out and the new models, we were launched with our beta customers in around 3 months. So we were the first agent that launched this type of solution for e-commerce brands. I remember it was December 2022.
Wow, that's super
Amazing.
exciting. And I mean, what you were saying just about the human agent experience, I mean, on the other side, right? You never want to feel like you're talking to a chatbot. I feel like I'm always typing representative, or I always say on the phone, representative, get me to the representative, right? I want to talk to the human. And so the fact that you really understood that at your core, I think probably is what makes Siena, as you're designing it, very successful.
Yeah. And we've seen
Yeah.
time and time again at the council too, exactly what you were saying. The founders that are willing to, no matter how much sunk cost they've put into something, the founders that are willing to kind of see the new landscape and say, hey, this isn't going to work, or this is going to work 10 times better. We have to change course. It just seems like that really, really accelerates things when you're willing to do that. Obviously, you can't do it all the time when you don't really have a good signal, but you had a really good signal at the time. And I consider myself lucky that I met you right around that moment. Because I think the first time we grabbed a juice at Joe and the Juice in San Francisco, and you were working on I think the SMS version of it. And then it was we're
Yeah.
building our own model a few months later. And then it was actually, we're going all in, and this is kind of the new reality. And still, with all of that, I feel like you guys were ahead of the curve. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, and one more thing to add regarding the channels. I think one of the biggest differentiators was the fact that we were multi-channel from day one. So the automation tools at that time, and still they are around today, the chatbots of the world, they are all focused on live chat. So literally that's the chat that they're providing, which we all know we've had experience with. Because we already had so much experience from running the conversational SMS marketing platform, and we were gathering all this feedback and I would say requests that brands want this omni-channel experience and provide the same level of support, but of course custom for every single channel. We really believe that this is the way to go. So Siena can help brands automate across all channels. You can have a different type of strategy across each.
Totally. And given you talked about how, your career, it didn't make sense, from day one that you would be where you are right now in an AI company, but it was also so natural and so linear the way that it progressed. I'm curious now that you are where you are, how do you lean back on those experiences, and how do you think that changes your experience as a founder, having actually been in some of the shoes of your customers and been the operator of an e-commerce brand?
Yeah, I think first it helps with our velocity, because sometimes when you meet with a customer, whether it's virtual or in person, they don't necessarily need to say it twice. Sometimes they don't even finish their sentence because we get it. It's just so easy to understand exactly what is the job to be done behind their request or behind their ideas, because we've been there. So I think that really helps a lot, this deep understanding of the space. And a lot of the team members at Siena are coming from e-commerce, CX, or AI backgrounds. So this, just helps with that velocity and innovation. And I think, when we look at the future in the next 5 to 10 years, there's already so much noise in AI, not only in the customer service space, but across, the entire AI industry. I do believe that the solutions that are going to win are the ones that are laser focused and very specialized in what they're doing.
Awesome. Well, you've talked a little bit about how Siena, and other platforms are, Siena is about empathy at scale, and AI is not really known for their emotional intelligence, right? There's a lot of discussion and discourse around this currently. And how do you make sure that your product isn't just a smarter chatbot?
Yeah. Um, so I think it all starts with how Siena was built. So Siena was built from the ground up on top of large language models. So this is basically our entire infrastructure is purely generative AI, and our approach is multi-agent and multi-model. So what this means is that you can do so many things inside of Sienna. So you have multiple channels, you can automate multiple use cases, you can integrate with multiple vendors to achieve, I would say, your desired outcomes that replicate, human workflows. So for every single job, there's a different agent doing a different job and using the best fitted model for that. Because we all know there's so many models out there, and like every single month we see a new one coming out, but every single model has its own superpowers or a set of skills. So we are very good. I'm super proud of our product team because literally as like if today a model drops, we will start testing it today and we will see in which area of Sienna, which functionality does this model apply best. So we achieve better results than we had before. So I think it all starts from here. And then of course, the reason why it's not robotic. And if you go right now and interact with Sienna on one of our customers' websites or social media accounts, you will have no idea that you are talking to AI. You actually think it's a real representative from their brand, and this is because, as I said, we really work backwards from how humans operate and also think. So Sienna has that contextual understanding. It can apply reasoning, and then only after applying that reasoning and really understanding, going deep into what the customer wants or confirms they want, it will go ahead and take that decision, whether it's just a response or recommendation or it's multiple actions that need to be taken in other platforms. So I would say is this context and reasoning engine, and then one of the things that I would say is the most unique at Sienna is our persona studio. So here's where you can really bring these agents to life and make them part of your brand's DNA. So you can really create someone like Sam for email that is more professional, likes to have a certain verbiage or signs up with a specific signature or always brings up something. Then maybe, I don't know, Sarah for social media that is more quirky. That you are following on social media is mostly made of Gen Z. So you want to like mirror that language and cool slang. So you can really design it that way. And of course, you can add your business context. So it really feels like it's a teammate. And I feel like that's how the majority of our customers describe Sienna, literally as another teammate.
That's awesome. And I'm sure just like a traditional call center, Sienna deals with customers when they're pissed off, confused, or
Yeah.
panicked. I'm curious, what's the craziest edge case that Sienna has had to solve?
There's so many. I think what surprises me the most is when, this is funny. So we have an internal Slack community with all of our customers, and they are constantly sharing fun things about what Sienna is doing or surprising things. So I remember someone, I think it was, the CX manager at Earthbreeze, and she shared that Sienna responded to a question about, I think, like a product or something that they have, but Sienna was not trained to respond. So they didn't create an automation or they didn't necessarily add that knowledge into Sienna. But the most impressive thing about her is that we call her a she, by the way.
Nice.
So everyone calls her she. So the most impressive thing is that even if she's not trained on something, she will still find a way to really give like a really impressive answer. Even if it's something that, okay, let me, at the end of the response, it would say, okay, I'll connect you with my colleague, like a handoff, doing that handoff. But it still like has so much empathy and excitement in the responses. So I think that's very impressive. Of course, like there's other more, I would say, complex things that really blow our mind. So the fact that it's capable of taking multiple actions at the same time, in multiple third-party apps that we integrate with and respond to multiple things at the same time and really know when it's time to do a handoff, because it really mirrors the behavior of the customer and maybe identifies some level of frustration. Or now with our launch that we're doing this week with Sienna Memory, Sienna remembers absolutely everything about your customers and really stores that information, so it references it in future conversations. So it really creates these customer profiles and everything about the customer, and it really knows them better than anyone else. So like finally being able to have that shopping experience with your favorite brand that knows everything about you, so you don't need to repeat yourself twice. Like they will know if I prefer my chocolate protein that is, the cleanest way, whatever, this is what I prefer. And I usually travel these months. Sienna will remember, so we will always send me the order at the right time. So it's these types of things and details that really make the difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it seems like every time you're kind of chatting about like what Sienna can do, you're always referring back to the context, the reasoning, really like all the elements that, allow for that real human interaction essentially, but through Sienna, which is really cool. So switching gears a little bit, you've lived in a lot of different places outside of Silicon Valley. Is there a particular, or popular startup mantra from Silicon Valley or an idea from there that you completely reject, especially as someone who's lived in Europe and New York and LA?
I think I'm not a big fan of the traditional Silicon Valley growth playbooks anymore because in this new era with,
Tell us more. Yeah.
AI companies, I feel like there's no, like the old playbooks do not really apply anymore. So for example, let's say if, like usually you have this traditional way of doing an org design structure, right? So, most of Silicon Valley companies or like most tech companies in the world, they have kind of like the same org design structure. You would even title your people the same way, or the way you hire and the way you think about hiring. It's just, it's in that traditional way. So now with, the new companies, like especially with AI, you can have such a small, like a way smaller team achieving way more. And the type of like profiles that you're looking for are completely different. And now I feel like I have a good friend, Erica, who wrote this really cool article about the new unicorns, which are the elephants of, I'm not sure
Oh,
if
yeah,
you've
we know
read that.
Erica.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
she's a
really
good
cool.
friend.
Yeah. So I felt like I resonated with that so much because, for example, if you needed, to do paid advertising to scale and like, I would say bring awareness into your company. Now you only need like the founders to be on social media, super present and authentic and like constantly sharing what they're doing and putting themselves out there with maybe not like perfect demos or perfect ads, but just like, oh, here's, a screen share of what we've built, and you can blow people's mind because you bring that, I would say experience into the world in a very authentic way, and you can create your community that way. So I just like feel like, to summarize, it's about like, yeah, I'm not a fan of traditional playbooks, like growth playbooks anymore, or like the traditional way of hiring or who you're going to hire first. But I am a big fan of, very like trying to leverage AI as much as possible and hiring different type of profiles with different type of set of skills.
Yeah. What do you think is kind of the ultimate skill or set of skills in this new environment, given you're
Mhm.
like hiring somebody that might need to cover multiple functions?
Yeah. So I would say there's a few skills or attitudes. So obviously, like being very hungry, curious, having good taste, because now you don't really need to know as much of, like, for example, if I'm not talking about engineers necessarily, I'm talking about, let's say, go to market, because I'm on the go to market side, so I'm always thinking about this. But you don't necessarily need to be extremely technical because of how easy these AI tools make it, but you do need to have good taste in order to really come up with a beautiful outcome, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about even landing pages, or when you think about campaigns, you do need to have that level of taste. Good writing, because with AI, I feel like it's an art of how you communicate with it. Like the better you communicate, the better your prompts, the better the output and the result. So if you're just going to give it superficial prompts, you're not going to get too much, and you're just going to end up frustrated, and then probably so will your work. It will be a little bit, subpar. So I would say these are the main ones, like hunger, great writing, taste, and curiosity. And yeah, I think these are the most important ones.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think I just read something that you wrote actually like on the communication style and the prompting on, your LinkedIn newsletter. And it was really helpful. And some of the things that I actually brought into mine, also my ChatGPT experience of creating like the customized, GPT prompts and ensuring that ChatGPT knows a little bit more of like the types of answers that I want to get out of it. And I've noticed a difference actually in the outputs as well. So it's awesome. So thank you also for that.
Yeah. Yeah. One other thing that I really liked, I listened. I'm a big fan of Lenny's podcast. I think we all are, and I think he recently had someone from Linear saying that they never compromise quality for speed or speed for quality. And I feel like maybe until these AI tools got the way to like the where they are today, maybe sometimes you needed to compromise, right? Depending on the project, but now there's no excuse. So you can actually have both. So that's where I would say the taste element really comes into play.
Yeah. That's funny because that was going to be my next question is like, how do you balance speed of deployment with integrity of the product? And it sounds like because you can move so fast, it all becomes around quality. That's cool.
Yeah, and I think there's another element where we stay very close to our customers. So we have our customers on Slack, and it's
That's
like
brave.
we actually at some point, I remember, I would say almost in the first year of Siena, we were like, oh, like, should we maybe move? Like, it's getting a little bit crazy. But then we decided, no, let's keep going this way because this is the easiest way for us to stay extremely close to our customers. And as soon as something is, obviously, we have our customer advisory board, which we collaborate very closely with, but then everyone can get access or early access to the things that we are experimenting with or that are about to go in beta or really get deployed for everyone. That like super fast communication and direct access to your customers is everything. So it helps with balancing that out.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they feel the transparency too, and they're probably, I'm willing to bet, more likely to refer you to another potential customer if they feel like, wow, I can see all the other people in here with similar experiences and problems as I have, and I also see how Siena's tackling that. It just feels way more transparent than like a brand that is just telling you one thing and you don't really know what they're doing on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It is very brave of you, though.
Yeah.
As I'm hearing that, I was like, oh, wow, it's something that, we've done with some customers, but not really with all before. Very,
We
yeah,
have
kudos
great
to you.
systems now that help us triage, and also we're
That's
using
awesome.
Sienna for our own support.
So switching gears a little bit, so as a founder, what has been your most painful learning moment, and what would you do differently if you had a chance?
I think it's always tiring. Like there's moments where you feel like, oh, like I've learned so much. I will never make these mistakes again, but you still make them. So I feel like hiring is a constant learning process. I don't think it's ever gonna end because like, even if someone like, we have a pretty cool hiring process where we really send assignments. Sometimes we work with a person for a few days or a week to really see how the collaboration would look like and really make sure it's the best fit for both of us. But you never know, like culture wise or, style wise and working wise, how that's going to look like until you actually, get to work together for a few weeks. I think it's always hiring. You always learn painful lessons that you feel like you've learned them once, but they just come up again or maybe come up in a different format. And I think, like I used to think that hiring specialized people is better than hiring generalists, but now obviously I kind of like changed this mindset because in this AI era, you kind of need generalists that are super smart and can make it work and they have good taste. And of course, they, maybe are more inclined and have that affinity towards their department or their area, right? Their area where they shine, like marketing or sales or engineering or product. But yeah, I feel like hiring is always like hiring better. And I think that's always a painful.
Yeah, that resonates with me a lot. As a people
Yeah.
manager turned business owner, it's the constant. And I'm sure as the company's growing too, like the different levels of types of people that you need are different. So it's like once you figured out the pattern, that's not necessarily the pattern that's going to get you through the next phase too. Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask about. So we love to ask about co-founder dynamics. You and Andre have been working together for the longest time. How do you keep the working relationship healthy and productive, particularly as you're managing a growing company too?
Yeah. I think I'm very lucky to have Andre as my co-founder. I used to think like, oh, when I talk to my founder friends that might be building companies on their own, I'm like, wow, how can you do it? I feel like life is so much better with a co-founder, because when someone is having, maybe not the best day or they're more down, the other one might have the best day. So you kind of like can balance yours,
Totally.
out, and it's always the case. So having someone there, it's always important. I think Andre and I are like yin and yang, to be honest, because we are very different. Andre is more, I would say, rational. He's the technical one. He always applies second, third order thinking and likes to apply first principles thinking. And I'm learning all of these things from him a lot. But on the opposite side, I am the one that is more impulsive. And when I just feel something in my gut, I will just want to go ahead and do it on the spot without necessarily like always looking at the data or like, because just I feel it, and maybe I'm more of that experimental type. So yeah, and spontaneous. So I feel like there's a great balance. And I think also when it comes to, as like Siena is growing almost every month, and working with people, like we always learn from one another, like that dynamic, and it really helps us better shape the culture. I feel like even if both of us are from Romania and come from the same culture, we do bring different, I would say, perspectives into the company, because like, both of us were raised in different ways. So you do bring different sides. I think how we keep it healthy, we started last year also doing co-founder coaching.
Nice.
So we have one session. We do individual sessions, but we also started doing co-founder sessions, and it really helps a lot having that space where someone meditates. I think that's the word. Yeah.
Mediates.
The conversation, and we can bring up some situations and see, okay, how we would have handled them differently, or maybe some decisions that we need to make. And yeah, our coach really helps us, and he's the best. So that has really helped a lot. And sometimes we, like, from one session that lasts about like an hour and a half, 2 hours, like we get one big takeaway that we apply, like, throughout the next weeks and months, and that changes everything. So for example, so when I get ideas, I try to find the best format to share with Andre, because we might not always like get, a lot of time to just brainstorm and hang out, because we all have our teams and, full calendars. So I sometimes try like emailing in a beautiful format, or creating the process in Notion, and then like, or recording something. But then what Charlie proposed is that, hey, why don't you bring it up as a proposal, and then your ideas and your vision would be like, Andre would approach it differently, because, that was like sometimes frustrating, because like I share so many things and nothing gets like, we don't get to talk about it, or we don't make enough space. So even that one little thing, like the way you position it as a proposal, it just changes everything. So it's going to be considered differently. And I also apply that with my team, and it's like small things that actually make a huge difference.
That is huge. Like, I think even on our own team, I'd like to implement that, because there's like no shortage when you're running a business of good ideas that come up. But if somebody puts
Yeah.
the effort in as like, this is my proposal and I'm ready to kick it off as soon as I get the okay, you're like, oh, okay, wow, all right, there's already a plan here, and I'm going to like seriously consider this. So that's cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, there's one question that I've been dying to kind of ask you, just given how I've spent like my whole career in client services and customer success. I feel like everyone in the industry right now is just talking about how, AI is going to first replace, CS and customer support. Obviously, you've seen this with like Sienna, right? How do you think about that? Like, would you say that traditional customer support is dead?
So you're asking if traditional customer support is that, if AI would replace humans? Okay. I think traditional customer support is not yet dead, but is slowly dying. But I'm not talking about having a department that is fully managed by humans. I'm not talking about that. I think, especially in e-commerce and retail, the adoption curve is still slow. It's not moving as fast as maybe, in, I don't know, in product and engineering, or in other types of organizations and industries. So I do see still these types of companies running just with humans. But I do feel like the old way of doing customer service with the old, software or infrastructures and all of those inefficiencies is slowly going to die. What I also believe when it comes to, AI replacing humans and so on, I know this has been said a lot, but I really believe in this, that AI is not going to replace humans. AI is not going to replace you. It's going to replace people that are not going to adopt AI. And they're just going to be like skeptical and really like blocking the adoption of it. So you are definitely going to be replaced with someone that leverages these tools and actually, rides these waves. So it's the same in customer service. I do believe that, I mean, what we've seen in the businesses that we work with is there's there's been mostly restructuring of the team. So let's say, so for example, we had one of our earliest customers, Cottery. They were able, because Sienna took so much of the load, they were able to finally implement a white glove program, a loyalty program that they had in their backlog for, I believe, like a year or even like maybe more than a year, because they didn't have time to do so. Those folks that were, spending time on the repetitive stuff, things that are not necessarily like going to move the needle beyond just, answering customers, they can actually go and do more exciting stuff that will actually generate more revenue, bring more loyalty, more retention, increase, LTV, AOV, and so on. So this is one example.
I love that
But
example, by the way.
yeah, we're big
It's a
fans
really
of,
good one.
yeah, we've seen a lot of this, and just, AI is making jobs way more exciting, giving so much more opportunity to these folks. There's still a lot of, I would say, fear and skepticism, which is normal with every single innovation. We've seen this happening historically, but yeah, it's definitely getting more and more exciting, as I think, yeah, if you take it slow. And this is one of the reasons why I even started the newsletter, even though I know there's a million AI newsletters out there, but everyone, picks and chooses. So it just brings, like, my goal was to bring AI in a more curated fashion to our community.
Yeah. And, when you were talking about like the coterie example, I think like the people that I see wanting to really adopt it on the customer service side, they're thinking about the more strategic things that they can end up doing. Like you were saying, like, the things that actually move the needle from a revenue perspective or can open up new opportunities there. I'm curious too if, as you've been building Sienna, like, have you thought about, just where kind of like like what those like customer service like functions are going to start doing instead, right? Like, kind of beyond the coterie example, are there other things that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think so. Another example, one of our other customers, Terra Cafe, which they are a very cool coffee machine based here in New York. So what they've done is they were actually able to put all of those resources that initially were on customer service on their community. So now they're hosting a lot of things across New York. They're doing partnerships with Rivian and doing running, events and all that stuff. So they just bring more awareness into to the company. So a lot of the folks that were previously doing customer service or social media are just transitioning more towards that in-person
That's super
element,
cool.
which is cool.
Yeah. Is there a common thread across like the companies that you see, just being more quick to adopt AI or adopt Sienna?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
I
winning, right?
think they're winning, of course, but I think the common thread is the people behind the companies. So like the most successful companies at Sienna are successful because of the people behind. So they are really like, I mean, obviously not only like visionaries, and they are not afraid of implementing new technology and getting their hands dirty, and maybe, in the beginning doing that groundwork. So then after they could be really scaling 10x faster. But it's also about the operational efficiency behind these companies. So they are very well structured, very well designed. The type of, like, again, comes down to the skill set of the people. And tech savviness really, yeah, says a lot. And that's, yeah, it's all about the people. I mean, I feel like, and it's not necessarily the number of people, like, don't get me wrong, it can be literally be one or two people that make the difference, but it's about, yeah, having the right mindset
Yeah.
and
That's awesome.
structure.
All right, we're going to transition to a quick fire round.
So what's the best founder lesson you learned the hard way?
Fire fast.
Good one. Most underrated skill for a founder or early employee.
Taste and great writing.
AI tool that you love that no one talks about.
I feel like everyone talks about them at this point. I love Lovable and V0 right now. Yeah.
One early decision at Siena that changed everything.
Bringing customers on Slack.
Nice.
And then what's your favorite founder ritual or productivity hack?
Does it need to be like founder? Okay, I have
Either way.
personal, but also like work. So my productivity hack is my calendar, my Google Calendar is everything. I have every single thing in there, including my personal life. So that is
Nice.
like the most, and also like I leverage tasks relentlessly. Like I love and just like checking, making sure I don't forget anything. And then on the personal side, I think meditating twice per day really helps.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Last one is a little more loaded. So, if you had a magic wand, what is one thing that basically you get like 3 wishes? What is one thing that you'd fix for yourself, Siena, and the future of customer experience?
For myself, I would love to be able to sleep 9 hours per day every
Sounds
day.
lovely.
That's the dream, right?
I'm not even saying 8. I need 9. I feel like that would change everything, especially for women. So
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah,
without compromising the remaining time though.
course.
So time should expand. Yeah. For Sienna, that I would fix. I think for me personally, because I'm on the growth side of things, I always want to fix the the growth, like the velocity of growth, like the speed at which we're growing. Obviously, for a founder, there's never enough or like never fast enough. And also like the brand awareness piece. So I would just like wave a magic wand and just like make sure CNI is everywhere because that's my goal, right? I'm trying to scale that as fast as possible in the best way possible. And for the future of customer experience, my biggest goal and our goal is to be able to go on any of my favorite businesses or products that I use maybe on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis and be able to interact with Sienna seamlessly and get everything I need seamlessly solved or, answered. Yeah, that's basically my goal.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. Well, Lisa, this has been such a great conversation. Where can people follow your journey or get their hands on Sienna?
Yeah. So our website is sienna.cx from customer experience, and you can always find us on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on First Builders. Your story is really a masterclass in turning, pain and frustration into product and doing it with empathy, fire, and precision.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. It's an
Thank
honor
you.
having you here and great to have you in the portfolio as well.
Thank you. Appreciate
Great
it.
day.
You too.
That was awesome. Rachel, what hit home for you?
I feel like there's so many different things in there. The main one for me was probably, of course, the customer success and customer experience like throughout, but also her willingness to scrap sunk costs and being super adaptable, especially when they started building their model. And then they're like, oh, OpenAI is out. We need to scrap that and use, what's being built. And then the other thing also that she talked about was just how in the age of AI, it's so important to still have the people that are driving those strategic decisions, having taste, having really great communication. She referred to that so many times throughout her conversation. It actually reminded me of even the tip that I pulled from her and customized my own ChatGPT to have better outputs as well. So it's so important to have like the people behind the AI to operationalize and drive it faster.
Yeah, and I love that she brought up the taste point because this is a conversation I've had with a lot of people one-on-one, and some totally agree with that and some don't. I'm very much in Lisa's camp there, where I feel like taste is the one thing that you really can't outsource to an AI now or even in the short to medium term. I don't know long term, but for now, it seems very hard to do. And I think particularly customers and people are out there with this sort of skeptical eye, like, am I talking to an AI right now? And, quality goes a long way, and showing that you've put a lot of thought into something goes a long way. And so being that sort of master curator as you're pulling together all these AI tools
is critical. And then I loved also the point that she made about how all these successful customers that she gets to work with seem to have successful people behind them, because in a sort of meta way, that's what this whole podcast is about, because that's also how we're designing our portfolio at the council. Because if you think about brand name companies that have gone through IPOs that everybody knows, usually they have a suite of products at that point in time. But at some point, they just had one product. So they were a product before they were a company with a suite of products. And then before they had a product, they were a person or a couple of people kicking off that company. And I find the same thing. The ones that really take off have the most impressive people like Lisa at the front. So, or even behind the scenes. So I thought that was great. And then I also loved her comment about co-founders, because I've seen, just across our portfolio. And even last week when we were talking with Danish, we used the same terminology of yin and yang with him and his co-founder, Jeff. And Andre and Lisa definitely have the same thing going on. And I've kind of seen two different, I guess, archetypes or mixtures of founders in our portfolio. One is the solo founder who feels totally comfortable not having the sounding board, and they kind of build a scaffolding around them with the team members that they hire to have the sort of accountability that you get with a co-founder. But it's not for everyone. And I can see how that could be unhealthy for some, and many probably. And then we also have these sort of co-founders with this, very different skill set than their counterpart. And what I don't see working out very well is two co-founders that have the sort of same skill set. So I think for anybody listening who's thinking about founding a company right now, I've talked to some folks that are still at their jobs and they haven't yet left, and they're thinking about who to co-found companies with. And I've noticed there's a tendency to think about who you like working with the most. And sometimes that is someone that's very similar to you. They might be in your same function, think about problems the same way. But you also want somebody that will challenge you and bring new skills to the table. So I think that's really critical in trying to find the right co-founder.
Yeah, it's always about the people, whether it's AI, whether it's co-founders, your team, it's going to always go back to the people.
Totally.
So, yeah. Well, if this episode fired you up, drop us a review, share it with your favorite builder, and subscribe to First Builders wherever you listen.